Production funding for QED with Dr. B is provided by
Battelle cares about STEM because it was part of our founding. Gordon Battelle, our founder, believed in building an institute that would actually better society through the use of science and technology. And this year we're going to hit a goal of 1 million students a year that we'll be able to impact around the country.
American Electric Power Foundation, boundless energy for brighter futures. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
I'm Dr. Frederick Bertley, scientist and President and CEO of COSI. Welcome to QED with me, Dr. B. Let's talk about science.
Dr. B, we know that you played basketball, but did you play any other sports?
Dana, yeah, I wasn't a bookish kid. I wasn't an indoors kid. I love sports. I did everything from BMXing to skateboarding, but the sports that I really concentrated on were basketball, hockey, soccer, and skiing. And so I loved sports. How about you?
Well, I played basketball and I also played softball, and I really love that team environment and that competition. And I'm actually really excited because we have 3 stories that look at athletic performance in different ways. Later on, we'll talk about the psychology of being a sports fan and how athletic performance influences our experiences as fans. And then we have a story on the groundbreaking technology for monitoring sweat to help individual athletes perform at their best on the field. But first, Dr. B, did you ever aspire to be a professional athlete?
Oh my gosh. As I mentioned, I played so many sports, but my first love was hockey. I literally thought I was going to play for my hometown team, the Montreal Canadiens. I was really geared on that. I worked so hard. I was on traveling teams. And then after a while, I just ended up going in a different direction.
Well, our first story is about how elite athletes are made. And I guess I always thought that you were kind of born with this talent. It was in your DNA. But you actually found out that there's more to it than that.
Absolutely. DNA and genetics can play a big role. You see that all the time throughout sports. Some people are just, they say, they're naturally built that way, what have you, male, female, what have you. But it's not just genetics and it's not just biology. And for that discussion, I had the pleasure of talking to Dr. Mark Williams, professor of kinesiology and author of Best, How Elite Athletes Are Made. So you've done extensive research in how elite athletes are made. What are some of the variables that athletes cannot control which seem to impact their athletic success?
Well, there's quite a lot of serendipity or luck involved in becoming an elite athlete. I mean, firstly, of course, the role of parents is very important. We don't choose our parents. And clearly their interest in sport, in getting you engaged in the sport, potentially taking you to practice, and in facilitating that early engagement in the sport is quite paramount. There is a fair amount of empirical evidence actually that highlights that your chances of becoming an elite athlete are much greater if you're a younger sibling. So having older siblings, again, encourage you to enter into the sport, provide an active role model, someone that you can play with, practice with and learn from. Other sort of aspects of serendipity around becoming an elite athlete might focus on, for instance, the place of birth. I mean, clearly, for example, if you're born somewhere in the Rocky Mountains, your chances of being an elite skier are much higher than if you're born in the Midwest. In fact, 75% of Olympic skiers are born within an hour of the slopes.
Let's talk about how elite athletes are different from us mere mortals. So you report that elite athletes are better and faster at processing visual stimuli. Can you explain that?
Yeah, I mean, it's you will often hear the commentator on the football game go, the player's got a great eye or superb vision. And it obviously implies that, the athlete has superhuman vision, a little bit like Superman, for instance. But that actually isn't the case. I mean, what happens is through prolonged engagement in the sport, these athletes develop knowledge structures in memory that allow them to perceive the world around them very differently to us. So they become better at anticipating. So, for instance, in the case of a baseball batter, he or she gets better at picking up information from the body shape, the postural orientation of the pitcher, and they're able to actually use this information to predict where the ball will end up in space even before the pitchers release the ball. On top of that, the batter is able to pick up information from, the pitch orientations, the loading on the bases, the score in the game, a previous knowledge of that pitcher, the pitcher's tendencies, what type of deliveries does he or she like to throw at different stages in the game. So because of this advanced knowledge, it's rarely that sport is a reactive event. It's actually one where these elite performers anticipate very early, so they can see the future before it emerges. And this, of course, makes it look as if they've got all the time in the world. It gives them time to move into position, to make the right decision, or to execute the shot in the most effective manner.
Can you talk about kind of the weekender athlete? I might play in a men's basketball league or a softball league. What advice from a kind of training perspective, or how to approach getting better as a non-professional kind of but weekend athlete?
Sure. Well, passion and interest is important first and foremost, but one thing that actually differentiates between experts and less expert performers actually is the fact that the less expert performers spend a lot of time practicing the things they're already good at, whereas experts actually spend more of their time practicing the things that they're not so good at. So they engage in what in the literature might term deliberate practice, which is specific, purposeful practice to improve some aspect of performance. So it's looking at your practice in a different way. And of course, one of the challenges of doing work that isn't more similar to deliberate practice is you will fail more. So it's learning to cope with the fact that failure is an opportunity to learn and to develop. And if you keep doing the same thing over and over again and not stretching the system, then you're not going to adapt and develop new skills.
I really love that you said that, because as you were talking about it and thinking back just my little myopic life, when I played sports, I loved doing the stuff that I was good at because it was positively reinforced me. If I was doing a layup or taking a slap shot or a wrist shot, I would pick the tool of choice because I knew I was better at it and I would have more success.
Actually, it fits into coaching to some degree as well, because, we differentiate in the literature between performance and learning. If you're a coach taking a practice session, then what you see in that practice session is actually their performance and not their learning. Give them lots of instruction, do a repetitive block practice of a single skill, and provide lots of feedback that performance is good in the session. And ironically, the research evidence suggests that almost the reverse conditions are better for promoting long-term retention and transfer. So that maybe as a coach, I should think, well, what is the least amount of instruction that I need to give the athlete so that he or she can begin to practice the skill? To what extent are my practice conditions dynamic, variable, and challenging so that they reflect the demands of competition? Not just technically and tactically, but also physically, physiologically, psychologically. And what is the least amount of feedback that I need to give the athlete? And there's a lot of evidence to suggest that we may as a society be guilty of overcoaching and being too prescriptive and not allowing kids the opportunity to engage in discovery learning.
So what are your thoughts now on the role that genetics plays in making elite athletes?
Well, it's an interesting point, because definitely there's some biology there, and that's the genetic component. But if you're a professional athlete, you have access to this whole ecosystem that got you there. So now if you have a girl or a boy or a child and you want to promote them into sports, you know all the levers to pull, you know all the trainers, you have all the connections, you know how the systems work. So yes, there's a genetic piece that you inherit from your parents, but also you inherit that whole ecosystem that allows you to have access to these great opportunities. So if you think about, for example, it's really hard to study in a lab. If you look at someone like Serena Williams, Wayne Gretzky, or Tiger Woods, and they have children, and their children end up being professional athletes. Was that purely genetic, or was that because Serena, Wayne Gretzky, and Tiger Woods obviously have access to this incredible stuff for the differentiated sports? So it's really hard to tease apart the genetics versus the ecosystem.
So we have a family that introduces us to sports, and then we play sports. And then we use technology to help us enhance our performance. And there's really a lot of data that we already measure, like our steps and our heart rate. But technology today can actually do a lot more than that. And you found that analyzing sweat is one of those new frontiers.
For more, I talked to Dr. Lindsay Baker, Senior Principal Scientist at the Gatorade Sports Science Institute. She's on a team of scientists who made the first to market wearable sweat patch and app. Dr. Baker, this is such an exciting field. Can you define hydration and talk about the importance of hydration for performance and why monitoring it is so important for athletes and people in general who are exercising?
The reason hydration is so important, and not just for athletes, but for everybody, is because water makes up about 60% of body mass in the average adult. And it plays an important role in maintaining function of pretty much every tissue and every system in the body, from the brain to the muscles, to the cardiovascular system, to metabolism, and even regulating body temperature. And many scientific studies have shown that dehydration can have a negative impact on performance. And this includes endurance performance, team sports and skill performance, as well as cognitive performance, especially when exercising in a warm environment. So this is why, as an athlete, you want to make sure to drink enough fluid during exercise to avoid significant dehydration.
So that's great. What I've discovered is this thing called the Gatorade Sports Science Institute. And I believe you developed a sweat patch to help monitor hydration and ultimately enhance the performance of athletes. Can you explain how it works?
Sure. So the GX Sweat Patch is a single-use wearable, and it measures an athlete's unique sweat profile to inform their hydration strategies to help them perform at their best. It uses a microfluidic technology and colorimetry to measure the amount of sweat lost during exercise and also how salty your sweat is. So the GX patch is kind of like a sticker. It's very thin and flexible, and you wear it on your inner forearm. And then after exercise, after you've finished your workout and the patch has filled up with sweat, you can actually scan the patch with the GX app on a smartphone. And then the app takes that data from the forearm collected by the patch and then translates that to whole body sweat rate and whole body sodium chloride losses. And to do this, the algorithm takes into account various factors about the individual and about the type of workout they're doing, such as body weight, the environmental conditions, the intensity of the workout, and some other factors. And then that app does all the work that a scientist would normally do. It calculates this athlete's sweat profile, it interprets the results, and then in the end provides personalized fluid recommendations to optimize the athlete's hydration.
So how are these sweat patches influencing the world of professional sports as well as the everyday athlete?
Now, instead of relying on the GSSI scientists to travel to the athletes and physically be there to conduct the testing, now it empowers the athlete or the team staff, for example, the dietitians or athletic trainers, to conduct the testing themselves. And so with that, it also enables the staff to conduct multiple tests, because ideally you should measure and create a sweat profile a few different times for each athlete, depending on how much the intensity or, say, the environmental conditions vary for that sport, because we know that sweat profiles can vary within the same individual too. And the other factor is that the GX patch and the app, they're really educational tools to help the athletes understand their body's nutrition and their hydration needs. And then the app helps you understand how to meet those needs. And we know that optimizing nutrition and hydration has the potential to really give athletes that little bit of edge over the competition, which is especially important in the world of elite sports and professional athletes, where we know a fraction of a second or a fraction of an inch can make all the difference between winning and losing a competition.
So this is fascinating. This is all around kind of hydration and measuring sweat. Where is this technology of a wearable patch going in the future?
this whole GX system really represents a shift in our focus to providing athletes with data about themselves, right? Like intelligence, not just with hydration and nutrition products. So what's important with these wearables is providing useful inputs to the athletes. Like one of the next wearables we're considering is like a body temperature sensor, because we know that monitoring body temperature is really important to help ensure athletes' safety when training or competing in the heat. And another technology we're interested in is monitoring hydration status in real time. So, for example, a wearable or a watch, or maybe even some other type of technology can assess the water levels in your body at pretty much any time throughout the day, not just when sweating, but say when you wake up in the morning or before you go for a training run, and tell you whether you are adequately hydrated, dehydrated, or perhaps even overhydrated. So the idea is to be able to measure hydration status non-invasively at any time of the day. I think over time the technology gets better, and also as we continue to do research to better understand the different ways that nutrition and hydration can help the athlete improve, incrementally over time, over a number of years, I do think we will continue to see, faster performance times and records to continue to be broken.
Dr. B, we learned why hydration is so important, but why are individual patches so remarkable?
Well, individual patches are critical because they're measuring the individual. So it's kind of like a fingerprint to measure how your body's optimized and performing. And the fact that you can measure that in a sweat patch is really cool.
So Dr. B, we already know that you're an athlete, and that makes me think that you are also a fan. So can you tell us what your favorite team is?
So growing up in Montreal, Canada, you love hockey, and you have to love the Montreal Canadiens. So without question, that was my favorite sports team, and it's still one of my favorite sport teams. How about you?
Well, I grew up in Indiana as a Hoosier in Notre Dame country, but I do actually consider myself a Buckeye today. And I think it's really interesting that athletic performance on the field can influence the behavior of fans and the community. And it really goes beyond wearing that game day jersey. Is that correct?
Diana, you are so right, because there's this whole field of science around fandom. But it's not just about you as an individual, although that's part of it. It's also about a community of folks. For more on that, we had the pleasure of speaking with Dr. Daniel Wan, professor of psychology at Murray State University. How would you actually define what a fan is?
Yeah, I think that if you asked 100 scholars that do research on fandom, how do they define fan, you'd probably get 100 different answers, and they're all a fan of their own answers. So I think that from my perspective, I would say a sport fan is somebody who simply has some level of interest in a sport, in a team, or in a player. Some fans, what draws their attention would be the colors of the team's jersey or maybe the logo. Others are a fan because they like the stadium or the arena. Others like the coaches or the players or the team or the team's history or the fact that, mom and dad, they follow the team. Anything that, links your interest to that team or sport or player, to me that works for the definition of fan.
What about sports makes us even care about them? What makes us fans?
Fandom has the ability to help meet basic psychological needs. There are things out there that we need as individuals to sort of operate and be successful in society. And fandom, from the perspective of sport, helps us do that. So first of all, one very powerful need that we have is the need to belong. If you are a fan of your local sports team or maybe a very popular sport, you're going to feel like, you fit in, like you're a part of the in crowd. But at the same time, another powerful need that we have is the need for distinctiveness. We don't want to fit in and be just like everybody else. We want to be unique and special in some way. So what we also find is that fans, sure, they'll follow a local team, but they'll also perhaps follow a distant team or an unusual team to kind of give them that edge, just to be a little bit different from their friends.
So as you're watching your favorite team, what is transpiring in our minds during a win or loss?
Well, it really depends on if you're winning or you're losing. if the fans watching their team lose, what's going on in the mind psychologically is they're basically trying to figure out how they're going to cope with that team's losing. They're already building in their excuses as the loss is acquiring and happening in real time.
You are a factory of sadness!
From watching my winning team, I'm already thinking about, okay, how am I going to celebrate, right? Or maybe I'm more of a pessimistic person and I'm thinking, yeah, we've been ahead in the second half before, and I've got a lot of instances in my life when, I was just devastated by a loss after the fact, so I think I'll hold off on celebrating until after that final horn goes.
We have our favorite teams, but what is it, this compulsion to sometimes root for the underdog?
Following an underdog, it's safer. So if I follow a team that's not supposed to win, and they don't win, in fact, the odds came out the way they were supposed to be, and they lost this game, well, then I can very easily say, well, we were supposed to lose. We weren't supposed to win anyway. I'm not out anything in terms of my self-esteem or my ego. But if that team wins, if they pull off an upset and they're successful, how much sweeter is that victory?
You are a factory of happiness!
How does a fan or wins and losses impact the community, maybe businesses, economic drivers for society?
The individual fan might be surprised at just what the power of sport fandom can be. We talk about the ABCs of psychology: affect, behavior, and cognition, our emotions, our actions, and our thoughts. Sport fandom, it impacts all of those, right? So sure, I like a team and I watch them play, but afterwards, isn't your emotion and your mood changed based on how it went? Of course it is. They've done research that shows that if a local sport team is successful, that's really good news for the local politicians, because if the local sports team is successful, the local fans are happy, and we love the status quo when we're happy. And if the status quo is the local politician, it actually shows that it gives them a couple of bumps in terms of their approval rating. We also know that it can have impacts on their economic development for countries. So they have looked at the success of like World Cup and national soccer and sports teams. It actually can impact the stock markets of those teams. Plus, individually, let's not kid ourselves. If a team suffers a terrible defeat in a championship game, people aren't going out and spending money like they're happy. They're just, staying in bed sad, don't want to go anywhere the next day. But if your team wins, all is right with the world, and so you're probably going to head out and spend a little bit more money than you would have. It has such powerful impacts across the board on what we do that, again, I don't think people usually understand.
Ultimately, why is it okay for us to be fans?
Every year or so, I teach a class, The Psychology of Sports Fandom, and it fills quite often. And you would think it would be filled with sports fans. Sure, most of the people in that classroom that take that class are sports fans, but every year, about 15 to 20% are non-fans, and they're sitting in that classroom trying to figure out, what am I missing? Why are all my friends so wrapped up in this stuff, and I just, quite frankly, don't get it? The reason that I suggest that people become sports fans is similar to the reason I would suggest that people become actively interested in any pastime. It brings with it advantages. It's a social activity. 1, 2, 3. You're going to feel connected to your friends. You're going to feel connected to your peers. You're going to feel connected to your university or your community. We've studied this so many times with sports fans. If you identify and you care about a local sport team, you have higher self-esteem, you have lower levels of alienation, you have lower levels of loneliness, you feel like you fit in more with your community, your connections are stronger, they're greater. There are clear psychological well-being advantages of caring about the local sport team.
So what are your takeaways for today?
It's so important to understand that athletics is not all about genetics. Yes, some people are born with different skill sets and different musculatures, etc., but anybody can be an athlete, because the second important component is how hard you work. Did you put in those 10,000 hours plus? Did you work on it hard? Did you study your craft? The third piece is how sports is really bigger than just the actual event. It's really about community building. And we see this in the fandom stuff. I mean, it's really about a community of folks, and the idea of rooting for the underdog. Why do we love that? Because not everybody's the top of every class. It's always like a 1% that's at the best of anything. So the rest of us are underdogs. So when we see an underdog come through, that's just a heartwarming thing. So those would be my takeaways. And that's QED with Dr. B. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and we'll see you next time. Good? Sorry.
Production funding for QED with Dr. B is provided by
Battelle cares about STEM because it was part of our founding. Gordon Battelle, our founder, believed in building an institute that would actually better society through the use of science and technology. And this year we're going to hit a goal of 1 million students a year that we'll be able to impact around the country.
American Electric Power Foundation, boundless energy for brighter futures. And by viewers like you. Thank you.